Om Sahna Bhavatu Sahno Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may He protect us both. May we both enjoy together. May we both exert together. May our studies become brilliant. May we not be disputatious and hate each other. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Hari Om, everybody. Welcome back. So, we were doing the verses of the Bhagavad Gita, Sthita Prajna. And I think so. We are in the 70th verse where we talked about Ramayana. The thought of Ramayana came because Diwali was just on and everybody celebrates Diwali, but hardly anybody knows why Diwali is and what is it meant for. So when we started the sequence of Ramayana, usually it takes around 4 to 5 days to talk about Ramayana. We are not going into a complete detail of it. The general story, most of them know already, right? So I'm just covering the story. Maybe some facets where a little bit of confusion is there, we may try to clear it during this lecture itself. So Sita and Rama were staying peacefully in the forest for 13 years. They had no problems. Lakshmana was there with them. And the whole Ramayana is built on sacrifices. So if we start looking at Ramayana at how Rama was as a son, as a father, as a husband, you know, as a king, it becomes a little difficult to judge such a personality. It's like a painter going down the street and trying to find the most beautiful eyes he's ever seen. So he sees a particular set of eyes, he comes home and draws on that canvas. Then he sees the most beautiful mouth and he draws that. Then the most beautiful nose, he draws that. And at the end of it, it becomes a caricature. Similarly, the plight of Ramayana is people piecemeal they try to take and try to understand what it is. You need to know the full sequence of it. So Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana were happy in the forest and they lived there for 13 years. Sita did not have a single problem. I told you, Sita represents the Jivatma, Rama represents the Paramatma. So the Jivatmas is not the lady, Jivatma is all of us. All of us are that category, Sita. And whole life, if the focus is on the self, be contented within himself and understand that you are Paramatma, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham. Once you understand that, then you are ever happy. Even from that state, the mind can slip in. And if the mind looks outward rather than inward, looks outward to any particular sense object or sense being person and says that I think I will be more happier if I get that. That's what is represented as Sita looking at the golden deer. The golden deer is just viewed a little bit. It disappears even before it appears. There's this line in Vedanta treatise by Guruji. It disappears even before it appears. Similarly, the sense object, the attraction, it disappears even before it appears. But I've seen it. And now since I've seen it, I want it. And that's where the problem starts. The focus has shifted from Sri Ram to some other anitya, temporary sense object. Behind the deer, Sita sends Rama away. Rama goes. Lakshmana draws the Lakshman Rekha. I've explained this all the last class. Ravana comes and he sees to it, and he comes in what guise? Not as a businessman, not as a poor person, a beggar. He comes as a sannyasi. The most pious of attire can be used for the gravest of crimes. This was not done now. This was done thousands of years back by Ravana himself. Started. So Ravana came in that guise and he took Sita away forcibly. That everybody knows. Then there's the story of Jatayu and all. I'm not going into that. Ultimately, they reach Dandaka forest, and in that forest, Kishkinga forest, sorry, and in that forest, they meet Hanuman. Hanuman is the minister of Sugriva, who is sent in exile by his own brother Vali. So Hanuman tests whether this is Rama and Lakshmana, good people, and he takes them to Sugriva. Rama says, listen, my wife is being kidnapped. I don't know where she is. So can you help me out? And Sugriva says, of course I can help you out. On one condition. You see, I got my elder brother, and due to some misunderstanding, I had taken up the throne because I thought he was dead. That's another story. There's a lot of stories in Ramayana. So if due to some misunderstanding, I was taken up in the throne. Vali came from behind and he saw that I deliberately took his throne, which was rightfully his, and he pushed me out of the kingdom. And I'm in the forest here, and he took my wife also. So first, I want you is to kill my brother, elder brother. Rama said, all right, I'll do that. And Sugriv goes there and he calls Vali for a fight. Once it's a disaster. Second time he goes, and when Vali and Sugriva are fighting, Rama was hiding behind the tree. And from behind the tree, he shot Vali. The idea is Vali had a boon from Indra himself. He had wearing a garland. And he says that garland had the power. Vali had the power that whenever he fights anybody on the battlefield, 50% of that person's strength will come to Vali. This was a boon. So this represents our weakness towards sense objects. I will say this, I will talk like this to that person. When that person comes, before 50% of your strength is gone. Sense objects, I have got complete control over my weakness. This weakness, whatever is the weakness you have, you should be honest enough to find out what your weakness is. As soon as that weakness comes before you, 50% of the strength is taken away by that object. So Vali had this boon. So nobody would fight Vali. Everybody was afraid of him. So Rama hid behind the tree and shot Vali. And before dying, Vali saw Rama and he asked some very pertinent questions to Rama. He said that, Shri Ramchandra, I have heard that you are Maryada Purushottam Ram. Very disciplined, very cultured, and you will always do something which is right. So question number one, please tell me, why did you kill me? I had no enmity with you. I don't even know you. You don't know me. Just because my brother told something about me, you heard one side of the story and you decided to kill me. Why did you kill me? It was like a contract. My brother gave a contract to you and you killed. So Rama explains that you did wrong by taking his wife away, taking his rightful kingdom away, and you were evil. Therefore, you needed to be killed. Not only that, this Kishkinda forest, whatever forest is there, this is in between Ayodhya. And for your purpose, I will tell you, I am still the king of Ayodhya. My sandals and chappals are still there. Bharata has kept. Remember, in the previous class, I told, I made a statement that what an ego about Bharata. What I meant was zero ego. No ego at all. That man has kept my sandals there, and I am still the king. Since I am the king, it's my responsibility to see that wrong things don't happen. Therefore, you needed to be killed. Wali does pranams and says, okay, question number 2. If I came to know that your wife is kidnapped, why didn't you come to me? Rather than going to the younger brother who is exiled in the forest, I have all the resources. Moreover, if it is Ravana, where there is a doubt that if it is Ravana, then I know him personally. I can just tell him and he will hand over Sita to you. Rama says it can't be done because what you will understand about the viraha, pain of separating from your loved ones when you can take over your own brother's wife, who is your daughter-in-law, in short, daughter. When you don't have that much sense and culture, how are you going to understand my plight? And then the third question Wali asks, why did you shoot from behind the tree? That's where Rama says, there is no fighting laws between an animal, a monkey like you, and a human being. Just as when a human being is walking, an animal can attack from any side, any way. Similarly, when a dangerous animal walks on, and like a man-eater, it can be killed in any way. So there are no rules. Wali is very satisfied with that, and he says pranams, and he passes away. Hanuman is sent to Lanka, and there he finds he goes to every palace everywhere, and he doesn't see anybody. One person he has a doubt that this must be Sita. So pious, so dedicated, so devoted, but she was Ravana's wife, Mandodari. And the only differentiation Hanuman could do was she was wearing jewelry. And he understood that Sita can never live like this. He came into Ashoka Van. Sita, the Jivatma, once it focuses that I don't want to be Paramatma, the higher values of life, I want something from the world, then Mother Nature sees to it that you get all you can from the world. What you want? You want riches, you'll get it. You want fame, you'll get it. You want name, you'll get it. You want respect from your near and dear ones and everybody, you will get it. But the same thing will be the cause of your pain. You'll get everything. So nature puts Sita, the Jivatma, from the jungle into the palace. Look, there is a golden palace. Now try to enjoy. Here, Sita, the Jivatma, understands her fault and repents for it. She sits in a garden called Ashoka Van. Shoka, sadness. Ashoka, no sadness. No sadness and no happiness. She's just sitting there. Ravana comes every day to say, please come, please, because he can't force. Please come to the, she doesn't go at all. And one fine day, our hero, Hanuman comes, Sundara Lahiri. Hanuman comes and he drops the ring of Rama and says, he is coming. Hanuman represents a teacher, a guru, who gives this indication to the student that your tapas in this state of no pain but no further happiness is enough. Don't worry, a higher state of consciousness is coming to visit you. That is Sri Rama. Sita becomes extremely happy and she's there. Hanuman burns the whole palace. Now imagine Hanuman himself could have burned the whole palace and went away. And he told Rama that I have done this, half the palace is burnt, half the Lanka is burnt. And Rama said, okay, now I know where to go. And he has to build a bridge. You see the irony of it. The God incarnate has to build a bridge from India to Lanka. And Hanuman, his servant, flew to Lanka and back, indicating the nature says that even a man of spiritual growth has to do certain things manually to make other people understand that there is great merit in labor. So the bridge is built. Rama goes there. War starts. I'm not getting into the details of it. War starts. Each and everyone comes. Indrajit comes. Kumbhakarna comes. Everybody comes. They are wiped off one by one. And at the end of it, Ravana is destroyed. Ravana is killed. Dead body of Ravana is lying there. Vibhishan has come here. He is the brother of Ravana and Kumbhakarna. He told Ravana that please return Sita back. Why are you doing this? He says, no, arrogance. One arrogance is enough. I don't want to. So Vibhishan came from there. As soon as he came there, he gave all the secrets of how to destroy everybody to Rama. Therefore, in Hindi, there is a kahavat. Ghar ka bhedi Lanka dhaye. Whole Lanka fell because ghar mein bhedi tha. See how wrong the whole concept is. It is that Vibhishan could not stand with the wrong person. He chose the right. He chose Rama. For him choosing Rama, we have put a wrong connotation on his activity. We praise Dronacharya and Bhishma, who are on the Kaurava side, who chose the wrong side, who tried to fight the right and Krishna. We praise them. Look at our mentality. We are trained as human beings at present to see wrong thing in good people and right thing in the bad people. In Ravana, we are trained to see good things. And in Rama, so many good things is done. We will not think about that because the mind doesn't want to register that. This person has got this one fault. Yeah, it may be one fault. I think so is bad. I will not follow. And that's easy in Rama's case. One lady actually in one of the classes told me, sir, to tell you frankly, na, I hate Rama because he was a very bad husband. No knowledge about what Ramayana is. People are just commenting blindly. That is why we are doing this. War is over. Ravana's dead body is there. Vibhishan is by the side of Rama. Now he is in a dilemma. Vibhishan says, Ravana was my elder brother, as good as my father, because they didn't have a father. Now he is dead. Should I do the last rites? If I go there and start doing the last rites, Rama will think I was always with him. If I don't, then I will not be doing my dharma. Rama understood this predicament of Vibhishan and he told Vibhishan, Vibhishan, he is your brother as good as your father, elder brother. You do justice, do final rites. If you don't want to do, I will do. Nobody should die. So that Vibhishan did, that was clear. Rama waited and then Sita came. Now this is the famous Sita came and it seems Rama said, my honor is established. The purpose for which I came to Lanka is completely fulfilled. My wife has come back. And so it seems he said, now you can do whatever you want to go. Wherever you want to go, you go. So Sita understood this line. She saw all the monkeys standing behind, all the devas moving around, waiting because Ravana is killed. So all the devas have come to visit and congratulate Rama. She immediately understood that what would be the doubt in everybody's mind, not here, but elsewhere too. Because she stayed with Ravana for the 1 year. She is saying she was in the garden, sitting there in Ashoka, but who's there to believe? So she created a fire so that she is not misunderstood. Rama did not tell Sita Agni Pariksha. She walked into the fire self and came out unscathed saying, look, I am pure. Therefore, a woman is every time supposed to give Agni Pariksha. It is not woman and man. It is Purusha and Jivatma. And the Jivatma, when completely exposed to the wealth of the world, materialistic, sensualistic attitudes of the world, it has to go through certain tapas to purify itself. Any purification is a purification trial by fire. I'll give you a simple example. If you are a married person, your husband has gone somewhere, say a particular city, and he's come after 2 days, and you found out that he was staying with a woman. Husband says, I didn't do anything. We were staying in separate rooms and we just talked. That's it. What will be your attitude in the house? Husband or wife? What will be your attitude? Yes, yes, come, come, I understand. Come and let's be. No. Today you sleep on the couch. Don't talk to me for 3 days. Don't. That is tapas. Trial by fire. Imagine the same thing we understand. What the other people, not Rama, what other people will be going through when they see Ravana in all his glory, a handsome fellow with all the money, good looks and everything, and Sita spending 1 year there. This Sita understood. Therefore she went. So Jivatma, when it goes through the fire of purity, then only Jivatma and Paramatma can be one. Ram Krishna Paramhamsa, the great master of Vivekananda, he told Vivekananda that, listen, don't associate yourself with this person, this theater personality. I'm not naming the person, this theater personality, because he is like a vessel in which something is prepared with garlic. So even when you wash it once, and if you don't wash it properly, you try to boil milk in it, the milk will get spoiled. So that theater personality hears this. He comes to Paramahamsa, obliges and says, sir, if the vessel needs to be washed and the smell should not be there, what should one do? Ramakrishna smiles and says, wash the vessel nicely twice and thrice. Burn it under fire so that that smell of garlic, that bad odor goes away. When that odor goes away, then you can put milk and boil, nothing will happen. This tapas, trial by fire, is important. Here, the trial of fire is materiality and sensuality abounds everywhere. Lies are abounding everywhere. Everybody is speaking lies, more or less, and hardly anybody is questioning whether it is right or wrong. We are good, we are good, we are good, we are good, all is well. That attitude is there everywhere. But whether it is that frightenness, everybody is frightened about that. In all these lies, to restrain back, get back to studies, get back to analysis, find out what is your purpose in life. That's what Ramayana is about. After this, Sita and Rama come out, and then after 20 days, they go to Ayodhya. Before going to Ayodhya, Rama sends Hanuman disguised to Bharata, who is staying in a small kutia outside the city, to test whether all these 14 years he's ruled, would he like to continue ruling Ayodhya? Look at the attitude of Rama. If he had a little bit of a thought that I have ruled for 14 years, there is no complaint, there is no robbery, then let me continue. Why is Rama coming? He doesn't need to come. I can handle it. He sends Hanuman to say that even if Hanuman sees an iota of interest to rule, he says, me and Sita will not go to Ayodhya, we'll go back. We'll go somewhere else. That was the attitude of Rama. And Hanuman, when he goes to Bharata, Bharata says that I'm waiting for Rama to come. When is he going to come? And Hanuman deliberately says, he'll be delayed by 2-3 days more. 14 years are over. And Bharata had promised 14 year, 1 day. If you delay, I will commit suicide. So he brings up all the logs of wood and he's about to jump. Then Hanuman tells him that, listen, this was just a test. Rama is on the way. Then Rama, Sita and Bharata, Lakshmana, she sacrificed. Lakshmana, 14 years, did not sleep. He was there guarding Sita and Rama. Why he couldn't feel sleep? Because his wife Urmila asked a boon that my husband is going to keep vigil there in the jungle, his elder brother and his bhabi, Sita. He may feel sleepy, but he should not feel sleepy. Therefore, all his sleep you give it to me. So the story is Urmila slept in the palace for 14 years. Not many people know that. The whole Ramayana is built on sacrifice. So all these people go inside, festivities are there, everybody is happy. The Jivatma and the Paramatma have become one. The society is joyous. It enjoys. And that is what is Deepavali. Everywhere, strings of lights are there. When this Jivatma, this limited personality, moves to a higher realm of Paramatma, understanding what it's supposed to do in life. Through study and analysis, through understanding and questioning yourself, things become different. The whole world enjoys. That is what is the verse what we do. Apuryamana machala pratishtam. Just like an ocean where all the waters are coming inside, gushing inside, it makes no difference to the ocean. Similarly, in such a person like Rama, let all the enjoyments enter together. It has no difference. Why? Because he's found out who he is. A person who finds who he is, they are never disturbed ever. They get everything, not nakama kami, not the people running behind desires. I want that, then I'll be happy. I want that, then I'll be. This attitude of running. Ravana is that case. He had everything. He had a golden palace. He had a harem full of women. He had one of the most devoted, beautiful wife ever in any grantha, Mandodari. Yet, he was never satisfied. That one power of arrogance finished him off. What happens when I run behind a sense object? One, I want that. That disappears. The sense objects itself keep on disappearing, one after the other. One person I heard in the news, he sold, this is year 2011. This man sold his kidney for an iPhone. He wanted an iPhone. I think so. It's iPhone 4. Now I don't know what number it is. I means me, my phone. I don't know why they don't bring in you phone. iPhone. Huh? Like a Guruji says, everybody is trapped in a web or a net. That's all we are trapped in. So he sold this thing, sold his kidney for iPhone. Yet that person is still suffering. There is no end to it. So before iPhone 1 comes, iPhone 2 comes. You buy something, the other is just round the corner. This one is good, but that one is better. How soon technology goes? 2-3 months ahead. So you buy something, after 3 months you feel, no, you didn't buy it enough because that was better. That is also not going to be better because something else is going to come up. It becomes obsolete very fast. So objects are changing around. Second, when even I possess that desire, first of all, the desire itself is unsatiable. It can never be satisfied. It's like a box of tissue paper where the tissue paper is always out. You remove one, tuck, the other is out. You remove that, tuck, other is. Every time, one after the other, the desires keep on coming. It's insatiable. It's like fire. You put wood into that, the fire will never say, bas ho gaya. Please, sir, no more wood. It will never say that. First of all, desire itself is insatiable in nature. Number two, when I get something, I enjoy thoroughly, but after a little while, the enjoyment wanes away. Like Adi Shankaracharya says, happiness is like a butterfly which goes and sits on a particular sense object. And I feel if I get that sense object, I'll get that butterfly and I'll be happy. As soon as I get that sense object, that butterfly moves from that object to something else, object or being. And then I have the object, but it doesn't give me any joy any further. It's gone somewhere else. And then I say, now, if I get that, I will be happy. Whole life goes this way. You give me a mango, I am happy now. You give me second mango instantly, the happiness reduces. You give me third mango, I can't eat. Difficult. This is called in economics law of diminishing value of returns. It keeps on reducing. Sir, mine is a love marriage. Can you see? I'll come and ask you after 3 years. Now, mine is a marriage. What about love? But mine is a marriage. After 4 years, क्या करे सर? शादी ऐसा ढोल है, गले पे पड़ी बजाना पड़ेगा. Marriage is like that. You'll have to play what to do. I went to one of the marriages. I never go actually, but one of them student was there. I shook his hand and said, "Congratulations on your marriage day. Wish you a very, very happy married life." He said, "Sir, is there a concept called happy marriage?" He is standing on the dais and the lady is smiling with him. This is the condition going on. So the law of diminishing value of returns, and ultimately a state comes when a law of neutralization comes. Neutralization is where that attitude of when the object is there, it gives me no more happiness. When the object is not there, it gives me unhappiness or despair. For example, oxygen, it is there, it doesn't give me any added pleasure. But when it is not there, you do pranayama and you take in, give out, and after that you don't take in for 2 minutes. You see how the body rumbles. When oxygen is not there, you are agitated. When it is there, it doesn't make any difference. Eventually, relationships also lose their strength. When they are there, no prize at all, useless. But when they are not there, I miss you, I want you. Why? Suddenly the value has come. Husband and wife together constantly, they get irritated. I don't want to look at your face. I don't know. And they get divorced. After divorce, suddenly the husband finds the wife very interesting. And he's thinking, why did I divorce her? She was such a nice lady. And the same thing the lady also thinks. Then they come together. Again, they look at each other, stay for a little while, and they say, I can't live with you. You are a bad person. And again, they divorce. Again, they meet. Again, they become friends. Again, why I'm giving this is because Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton married 3 times. Therefore, I'm repeating this. They married, they saw each other, they hated each other, divorced, then they married, they saw each other, hated each other, divorced, then they married 3 times. Law of neutralization. No more happiness. Therefore, anybody who runs behind desires, I want that, that will make you happy. It will never make anybody happy because something else will come up. This is what the whole verse was. Now we'll do the next verse. Vihaya kamanya sarvan humascharati nispriha nirmamo nirahankara sashanti madhigacchati. That man, that person who abandons all desires and moves about without yearning, without the sense of I and mine, he attains peace. So all the verses of Sthita Prajna, what all we did now, this is the conclusion of it. This is the summary of it. How does this person stay? Just follow this blindly. Okay. That wise man abandons all desires. Give up all desires. Now, when we use the term give up all desires, everybody says desire chhod do, desire chhod do, kaam chhod do. You can't give up desires. You can give up only lower desires. So the lower desire means that which caters to only me and mine, selfishly. What is happening to my life? Look what happening. That attitude of I want this, I want that, I want this, that needs to be subdued. That needs to be eradicated. And higher aspects of life should be taken away. I want to do this. This is my talent. and I want to fulfill my talent, I should go back. Fulfillment of the talent should come forth. Automatically, that will become the seed of your happiness. So, give up all your desire indicates don't live a selfish life thinking only of me and mine. What do you want to do? I want to sustain myself. It will be done, yeah. Don't cry about it. Every ant, every crab, every pigeon, every squirrel, every sparrow is conditioned and they are taken care of by that almighty principle. Will you not be taken care of? Of course you will be taken. So don't think from a very low point of view of, I want this. Just take care of your necessities and think, live a higher life. Live a higher kind of life. That's the idea. Give up all your desires. So that man who abandons all desires and moves about, charity, not that the person giving up all desires, now what to do? We can't do anything. We'll just sit. We'll just give up everything. A friend of my uncle had come, an old person, and he looked at us and said, you know, sir, I have also become a sannyasi. I said, congratulations, very good. So what did you do? How come you became a sannyasi? No, you know, I don't do anything. I have given up everything on God. Sab upar wala kar dete. I said, really? Excellent. So how do you sustain your house? He says the daughter is doing, I given this example here a long time back. The daughter was doing chartered accountancy. So she would go to a particular college in Andheri and study there. They had a room they had given for outsiders. She would study there in the morning from 6 to 10. Then 10 to 5, she would go to work as an apprentice in some office. 5 o'clock, she would come back, again go to study, and then come home at 10 o'clock. And she'll carry a small dabba of lunch. Whatever apprenticeship gave her the money, the fees, that was used for the sake of the house. And this guy was an engineer. The father was an engineer. He refused to touch and go for work. He said, what is the use of work? I want to find out who Brahman is, who the supreme reality is. There are people who have given up living in the name of finding the reality. That is not the criteria. Remember, we are doing Bhagavad Gita. We are doing Krishna's life. Show me one photograph of Krishna sitting like this and thinking, what should I do now? You will never see that. He's constantly moving, constant. From the prison where Vasudeva and Devaki was there to Brindavan, from Brindavan to Mathura, from Mathura to Hastinapur, from Hastinapur to the, he constantly went on moving, never once looked back. Thousands of poems of sad songs are written by Radha and all the gopis saying, Krishna, where are you? He's gone. No attachment, simply moving on. So this person is moving also without yearning, constantly in the world. Meets everybody. You remember that verse? Sarvaramba. He meets everybody, whatever comes of it, he takes it. So such a person has risen above the desires. He moves out without any attitude of yearning, craving within. I want this to happen. Nothing should happen. The focus is, what am I supposed to do here? Situation, it's like, how many of you have played that Ludo game? You know, you have the dice. When the dice puts 6, you play 6. Then you don't keep on holding the dice and say, I wanted 7, but you know 6 is coming. Why God is like this? No, you roll again and you move on. Whatever the environment situation is, you move according to that. You are never attached to the feeling of who is rolling the dice. You are never thinking about why something happened in my life. You are always thinking about, okay, this happened. Ho gaya. Now, what should I do? That attitude is called without any internal craving. He is not bothered about what is happening outside, just as a waker is not bothered how he lived his dream life. When I am dreaming, I had a wife, I have children, I have society, I got work, I got so much pressure, I have a lack of money, lack of assets, so many problems. Where? In the dream. But once somebody slaps me or my alarm bell rings and I wake up, after waking up, how much I feel about the dream. I shrug the shoulder and say, gone here. Now it's a different life. Therefore, no yearning towards the lower aspect, no yearning about the world and what's happening. You do what is right to the best of your ability. That's it. So, no yearning. Again, nirmamo nirahankara. No mindness. This is mine, that is mine, this is mine. Possessive attitude towards your possession. छोड़ दो. Like a Guruji says, छोड़ो, आया, पकड़ा, गया. If you leave it, you will come. It will come. You run behind it, you will not get. If you leave it, it comes, it belongs to you. If you leave it, it's gone, it was never belonging to you. Khatam. Move on. That's the idea. So no mindness. I don't have anything. My children understand this. You go to the beach, there are 3 children. Small child is making a small hut by the side of the beach, the sand, you know, the ocean is coming, and the side he makes a small cute hut with a topi on top. The other guy, a little grown-up child, he makes a beautiful house with a terrace. He puts 2, 3 plants there. He puts a cap, small house, another bigger house than that. Third person, he makes a palace, beautiful palace with all the decorations done. They, all the 3 people understand, all the 3 children understand one thing. Whatever they created there, they can't take home. Whatever they have created, they can't take. They understand that, yet they do justice to that. Is it possible for us to live a life like that? Where you do the best what you can, to the best of your ability, and never have a possessive attitude that this is what I did. I have no possession. Somebody gives me material, it is done, and you move on. As soon as arrogation comes, I did this, problem starts. So a person should never have this mindness. This is mine, nothing is mine. Everything is provided to me, around me, for a particular purpose. My family is provided around me for a particular purpose. And your whole mission in life is to find out what that purpose is. So no mindness and nirahankara, no attachment. Ahankar, when the ego comes when you are attached to your past and said, you know who I am, you know what I did, you know how big car I have, you know how big house. That is the attachment of the past. No ego, no arrogance about anything. Gar ye hua to kya hua, gar wo hua to, if this happens, so what? If, what is the big deal? If tomorrow this class shuts off, what's going to happen? Nothing. You will all go to different places and listen somewhere else. As simple as that. There is nothing going to change. So anybody who is doing anything, for that matter, any activity in the world, they should have this attitude that I am completely dispensable, replaceable by every time anybody around. So no ego. Nirmamo nirahankara. Saha shanti adhigacchati. That person who moves around in the world without desires, without the sense of this is mine, that is mine, without the arrogation that look what all I have done in the world, such a person, shanti adhigacchati. Shanti comes to him. He doesn't run behind shanti. He doesn't run behind peace. Peace becomes him. That person has reached the ultimate goal. We'll continue next time. Thank you. Oh.